Many people walk through life believing their mind is something fixed, an identity, a personality, a history they cannot escape. But the mind is not a stone, it is not solid. It is more like water, shaped by the container it is in, influenced by the environment around it, constantly moving unless trained to become still. If you observe a thought carefully, you will see that it arises without warning, stays for a while, and then passes away. The thought does not ask for permission, nor does it have substance unless you feed it with attention. In this way, the mind is not a single object, but a flow, a stream of impressions, memories, reactions, and desires. And yet, this stream creates your reality. If it is turbulent, your life becomes filled with restlessness. If it is clear, then decisions are easier, emotions more stable, and actions more intentional. To believe the mind is permanent is to remain trapped in habits that were never chosen consciously. But the moment you recognize the mind as flexible, a doorway opens. This doorway is the space between stimulus and response. It is the moment when you can observe rather than react. At first, this space is very small, almost invisible. But with training, this space grows, and the more it grows, the more control you regain, not by force, but by understanding. One of the first steps in rewiring the mind is to stop labeling thoughts as good or bad. These labels create friction. Instead, see thoughts as clouds drifting across the sky. Some are dark, some are bright. But none of them are the sky itself. The sky is your awareness, unchanging, always present. This is why awareness training is essential. You cannot change what you are not aware of. When you become aware of anger, it loses its grip. When you see the roots of fear, you stop watering them. Awareness does not fight. It simply sees, and what is seen clearly begins to change. Stillness is not the absence of movement. It is the ability to remain centered while things move. When your mind learns to return to this center repeatedly, even chaotic thoughts lose their power. In time, you do not need to chase peace. It becomes your natural state. To shape the mind, you must treat it like a garden. What you plant will grow. If you feed it with comparison, it will grow restless. If you feed it with stillness, it will reflect clarity. Every moment you are training your mind, whether you know it or not. The only question is, what are you training it to become? Each day is not just a unit of time. It is a full cycle, complete in itself. Just as the sun rises and sets, the body wakes and rests, the breath enters and leaves. So too does the energy of life move in circles. To treat 24 hours as ordinary is to overlook one of the most powerful training grounds for transformation. A single day is enough to change direction. One choice, made with full awareness, can set a new trajectory for your mind. But most people wait for the right time, not realizing that every day carries the same opportunity. What you do in the next 24 hours is not separate from what you become in the next 10 years. In the Shaolin tradition, time is not wasted. It is cultivated. The way you rise in the morning, the food you eat, the words you speak, the posture you hold, all contribute to your internal state. Small, repeated actions create invisible grooves in the mind. These grooves become your habits. Your habits become your life. Many chase discipline as if it is something to be found. But discipline is built one day at a time. If you treat today as sacred, you will move through it with awareness. You will watch your thoughts. You will choose your actions. You will no longer live as a machine driven by impulses, but as a cultivator tending to each hour like a seed. When you divide your day into moments of practice, breath, movement, silence, stillness, you begin to experience time differently. You no longer ask, how much can I fit into today? But rather, how deeply can I enter this moment? The quality of your attention is what determines the quality of your life. The ancients did not need clocks to tell time. They followed the rhythm of nature. Morning was for awakening the body. Midday was for focused activity. Evening was for reflection. Night was for rest. To rewire the mind, you must first return to the natural rhythm of being, not the artificial pace of urgency. One undisciplined day creates disorder, but one intentional day reclaims order. Each hour is like a breath. What you do with it either cleanses the system or clogs it. Most people underestimate the power of a well-lived day, but mastery is hidden inside the simplicity of one sacred cycle, repeated again and again. There is no need to control the whole future. There is no need to fix everything overnight. But if you can honor the space between waking and sleeping and move through it with purpose, then the 24-hour cycle becomes your temple, your training hall. Your teacher. Many people misunderstand discipline. They see it as restriction, as limitation, as something that confines. But this is only the view of the undisciplined mind. True discipline is not imprisonment. It is structure that leads to liberation. Without discipline, you remain a servant to your impulses, your distractions, your mood. When you cannot say no to the unnecessary, you cannot say yes to what truly matters. The undisciplined person is not free. They are pulled by craving, by comfort, by the habits of their past. But the disciplined person moves with intention. They are not controlled by the outer world, because they have begun to govern their inner world. At the Shaolin temple, discipline begins with the body. The body is trained to endure, to adapt, to follow commands even when the mind resists. Through movement, repetition, and stillness, we condition ourselves to rise above excuses. This training is not punishment, it is purification. Each action becomes a test, not of strength, but of resolve. When the body obeys, the mind begins to follow. You wake up when it is time, not when you feel like it. You eat what nourishes, not what numbs. You practice even when motivation fades, because discipline does not depend on emotion. It is rooted in clarity of purpose. In this way, discipline becomes a form of self-respect. Discipline simplifies life. When your day has structure, your mind becomes lighter. You no longer need to negotiate with yourself at every turn. You already know what you will do. And because your energy is not scattered on decisions, it can be focused on presence. Paradoxically, discipline brings ease where there used to be chaos. It is not necessary to train for hours every day to build discipline. It begins with small commitments. Wake up at the same time. Keep your space clean. Finish what you start. Speak less. Listen more. These are simple but not easy. That is why they have power. Each kept promise builds inner strength like drops of water carving stone. Freedom does not mean doing whatever you want. It means having the power to choose what is right, even when it is difficult. It means being able to stay calm in adversity, to hold your ground when others are swept away, to move with purpose when others drift. This type of freedom is not given. It is earned through training. When you observe someone with mastery, you are seeing the result of countless disciplined hours, not just in movement, but in thought, in emotion, in stillness. They have paid the price to become free, not from the world, but from themselves. When the water in a pond is still, it reflects the sky perfectly. But when disturbed, even the smallest ripple distorts the image. The mind is no different. In stillness, we see truth. In restlessness, we see only fragments. To bring order to the outer world, we must first bring silence to the inner one. Stillness is not passivity. It is alertness without tension, awareness without effort. Many confuse stillness with being inactive, but true stillness requires great discipline. It is the ability to sit, to breathe, to observe without becoming entangled. It is a strength far greater than any physical display. In the practice halls, we train to still the body before we still the mind. A restless body leads to a restless mind. So we stand, we sit, we move in patterns designed not just for health, but for harmony. The movements are mindful, the breath is deliberate. In this way, the body becomes an anchor for the mind. As inner stillness deepens, perception sharpens. You begin to notice the subtle, the tension in your shoulders, the racing of thoughts, the rise of irritation. These signals were always there, but lost in the noise. Stillness doesn't create clarity, it reveals it. What was always present becomes visible. When the mind is quiet, problems begin to untangle themselves. You no longer react from habit, you respond from awareness. Decisions are not rushed, words are chosen carefully, actions are aligned with intention. This clarity in behavior is the natural extension of clarity within. Stillness is also how we conserve energy. Most fatigue does not come from action, but from internal conflict, doubts pulling in one direction, fear in another, ego in yet another. Stillness ends this struggle. In the silence, you return to center. From that center, movement becomes effortless. To cultivate stillness is to train the nervous system to rest in presence. It is not a technique, it is a way of living. Whether walking, eating, or speaking, there is a slowness, a softness, a deep listening. Not because there is nothing to do, but because everything is done with complete awareness. Stillness must be practiced daily. It does not arrive by accident. It is built through rituals, morning breathwork, silent sitting, walking in nature, slow tea, mindful repetition. These are not escapes from life. They are ways of remembering what life actually is. The mind is shaped by what it does repeatedly. Thoughts become patterns, patterns become beliefs, and beliefs become the lens through which you see the world. If you wish to change the way you think, do not start with thoughts. Start with rituals. Start with action. Repetition with awareness creates transformation. A ritual is more than a habit. A habit is often unconscious, but a ritual is sacred. It is something done not just with the body, but with the mind fully present. Whether it is how you rise in the morning, how you drink your tea, how you prepare your space, or how you end your day. Rituals signal to the mind that something meaningful is happening. When you perform an act with full attention, it becomes a form of meditation. The ordinary becomes extraordinary. Washing the hands becomes cleansing of the mind. Sweeping the floor becomes clearing of thoughts. Bowing before practice becomes a reminder of humility. In this way, rituals are not separate from daily life. They elevate it. These small intentional acts begin to rewire how you respond to stress, how you process emotion, and how you direct your energy. When you begin the day with silence, the noise of the world has less influence. When you end the day with reflection, the mind learns closure instead of carrying unresolved thoughts into sleep. In the Shaolin tradition, the repetition of movement, katas, forms, breath sequences, is not about technique alone. It is about embedding clarity into the nervous system. The body learns alignment, the breath learns rhythm, and the mind learns presence. Through this embodied repetition, the internal dialogue becomes quieter, more focused. If your rituals are filled with distraction, then your mind becomes scattered. But if your rituals are designed with intention, then each moment becomes a lesson in self-mastery. Ritual is not about doing something big. It is about doing something simple, repeatedly, with full commitment. A mindful breath every hour, a bow before each task, a pause before each response. Over time, these intentional patterns become internalized. You no longer have to force yourself to be aware. It becomes your default. The ritual trains the mind where attention should go. It removes the guesswork. The mind begins to associate certain actions with calmness, with strength, with clarity. The ritual becomes the container for a new identity to emerge. When the mind is busy, the path forward seems hidden. But when your day is anchored by ritual, the chaos loses its power. The same outer world exists, but your inner orientation shifts. And from this shift, new thoughts arise, no longer from fear or reaction, but from centered awareness. Control is often misunderstood. Most try to gain it by holding tighter, clenching the fist, tightening the jaw, narrowing the attention. But true control is not found in force, it is found in surrender. The more you grasp, the more you suffer, the more you release, the clearer your choices become. Letting go is not weakness, it is the wisdom to know what is not yours to carry. You cannot control the behavior of others, you cannot control outcomes, you cannot control the past, but you can control how you respond, and that response only becomes skillful when the noise of clinging is silenced. In practice, letting go begins with awareness. Notice how the body holds tension. Notice how the mind repeats stories. Notice the fear beneath the urge to fix everything. Then pause. Then breathe. In that small space, you are already reclaiming your power. You are no longer driven by reaction, but guided by presence. The body teaches this lesson clearly. In martial arts, if you hold too much tension, you lose balance. You become rigid, slow, vulnerable. But when you let go of excess force, the body moves fluidly. It responds without hesitation. It flows instead of resists. The same applies to the mind. A flexible mind is a strong mind. Control gained through force creates exhaustion. Control gained through clarity creates sustainability. When you stop fighting the moment, you see it as it is, not as you fear it to be. This shift allows you to choose wisely, act decisively, and move freely. It is not a surrender of power, it is the discovery of real power. Letting go also means releasing the need to always be right, to always know, to always win. The ego holds on tightly to identity, but growth requires the opposite. You must be willing to unlearn, to be humbled, to sit in uncertainty without panic. This humility is not the end of strength. It is the beginning. Stillness of mind arises when the inner struggle ends. And the struggle often ends when you stop resisting what already is. Acceptance is not agreement. It is not passivity. It is the courage to meet life as it comes. From this meeting point, action becomes precise. Words become intentional. Emotions lose their grip. The paradox of mastery is this: the more you let go, the more control you gain. Not control over others, but over yourself, your mind, your focus, your energy. It is from this place of inner alignment that the external world begins to respond differently, not because it changed, but because you did.